everybody, it's Vanessa here and welcome to my Dyslexic life. So I'm really sorry I didn't manage to make a video last week. Last week I was actually away with my parents, and here in New Zealand, you know, we are lucky enough that we're able to travel around. We're not under any restrictions internally. So my parents and I went away on holiday for a few days. And what was really interesting about that is just seeing some of the stuff that my mum does that, oh my gosh, it's so dyslexic. And, you know, they do say dyslexia is hereditary. And I don't know about you guys, but in our family, there's, you know, a few family jokes. And interestingly enough, quite a few of these are actually based in people's dyslexia. So my mum is renowned for being late. In fact, both my parents are renowned for being late. Good friends of the family know that if you want my parents to turn up on time, you have to tell them about half an hour before you actually want them there. And even then, they might not make it on time. Like, they are just terrible. And, you know, I was reading an article the other day talking about time blindness, that, you know, one of the symptoms of dyslexia is time blindness. So I thought that was quite an interesting way to phrase the challenges that dyslexics can have with time. And it talked about how dyslexics don't naturally estimate time very well. And I've talked lots about this in a couple of the videos that we've already produced over in The Truth About Dyslexia, and about how we just see something finished. So we don't necessarily see the time that it takes. So we're really poor at estimating how long something will take to do. And that also means that we try and do too much. You know, there's been a joke with my friends for a long time that Vanessa days have 36 hours in them, because I've always got this massive list of stuff that I'm going to do. And it was really interesting being away with my mum. So my mum used to work in travel. So you would think she would be pretty good with time and getting on aeroplanes, but she is just a nightmare. And it was interesting looking at it from a different perspective this time, you know, and that perspective was we were had to leave the accommodation and had to get to the airport. So my mum just kind of got up and did her normal routine, which is, you know, get herself a cup of tea, and then she usually sits and does a Sudoku, and, you know, and she doesn't like to be rushed. So one thing about my mother is you really can't rush her. But it was so interesting watching this, because I could just see that she really had no concept that she needed to, you know, have breakfast, get dressed, finished packing, then we need to load the car, you know, then we need to go and drop the rental car off, and we needed to get to the airport. And I could really see that for her, she just didn't have any sense that sitting there for half an hour, like she did every morning, wasn't actually going to work that morning. Actually, what she needed to do was just get ready. And it was causing a bit of friction. And, you know, not for me personally, because I can just see it from a different perspective now. I think that was what was really fascinating. And two things struck me. One, how hard it is when you're growing up with a dyslexic parent for us to naturally get that sense of time. So my mum has a really bad sense of time. So even if I wasn't dyslexic, it would have been difficult for me to learn how to manage time anyway, because, you know, I didn't have those experiences when I was growing up. But of course then, because I am dyslexic, I do have that, you know, relationship with time that has been really difficult, and it was only after my Davis program that I really started to really understand time and how short an hour was, and how I couldn't do the 5 things that I wanted to do. So really observing my mum, it was really fascinating, just seeing it in action. And instead of getting like anxious or upset or annoyed because she wasn't getting ready, I was just able to kind of step back and go, wow, you know, this really is dyslexia in action here. And I could really see how as a child growing up, I just didn't naturally get that sense of time shown to me. And then, like I said, it was really interesting. You know, my mum's in her 70s, and I don't think she wouldn't class herself as dyslexic. You know, she jokes with me that she can't ride a bike and she can't balance. So she definitely has some dyspraxia in there, and she kind of jokes about it. But I don't think she really sees the connection between the way her brain works and some of these challenges that she had. And she was just oblivious. She just couldn't see the things that needed to be done and the fact that they were going to take a bit of time. It was just fascinating to watch, really fascinating. And, you know, this time, instead of getting anxious or annoyed at her, I just kind of said, look, Mum, it might help if you went and got packed now, because, you know, we don't want to be rushing and, you know, we can't miss the flight. And I just used the excuse that her and my dad are getting a lot older now, and it takes them longer. So I'm like, it's going to take us longer to pack up the car, and it's going to take us longer to, you know, drop the rental car off, because, you know, we don't want you and Dad to have to kind of be rushing and running. And she did get up and get ready. But yeah, it was really just fascinating that even someone who worked and travelled her whole life, for her, she just couldn't see that she just didn't have time to sit there and drink a cup of tea and do her Sudoku and not really get moving until the very last minute. Yeah, so it's interesting when you become aware of all of these different things about your dyslexia. And then, like I said, it's really interesting to look at your family members, and sometimes you can see where those dyslexic traits have come from. So I'm really sorry I didn't make a video last week. We're back now. We did make the flight. So I will see you next week. Have a great time wherever you are in the world. Bye.